This is the Television Enthusiast Podcast, The Weekly Set.
Episode 17, recorded June 25th, 2015.
Hello and welcome to the TV Enthusiast Podcast, The Weekly Set. I am your host, Tyson. Joining me today are Will.
Hello.
And Kat.
Hi.
Today we're going to be talking about sci-fi, the Sci-Fi Channel, previously the Science Fiction Sci-Fi Channel, now the SYFY Channel. We've kind of laughed a bit before about that ridiculous retitling and what they kind of ruined with the network, but things seem to be kind of moving back on track, and so we're going to be talking about that. That's going to be our main topic. But before then, we're going to kind of just talk about a little bit of the news that's been going on and what we've been watching. So, starting off with just some of the news, the big one, and we already, Will and I already talked about this in our Hannibal discussion, is Hannibal was canceled.
Sad.
Yeah, it's kind of something I've been expecting since Brian Fuller announced a show that he's working on.
Yeah.
And then after it passed season 2, then I was like, okay, when's it coming? Thankfully, though, there seems to be a lot of positive momentum towards this not being necessarily the end.
Brian Fuller did an interview that I saw today, where they were talking about the future. He didn't say, but he said there were a lot of interested parties. He did confirm that one party that's not going to pick up the show is Netflix.
Okay.
He said because of their deal with Amazon, it's not going to Netflix. They said Amazon is interested though, but he doesn't know if they're actually going to pick it up.
It's still kind of a shame because Netflix is what a show like this needs. Because a show like this, what they really need more than anything is discoverability. And Netflix is the discoverability platform for like video, you know, it's nobody really goes to Hulu and kind of looks around and says, what am I going to watch? Or Amazon. They do that on Netflix though. Netflix, how many times you go on there and you're like, oh, I'm going to kind of check out what's new here. And oh, that looks interesting. I'll check that out, you know? Nobody does that on Amazon or Hulu or anything. And so it's kind of a shame that it's not for that, because that's what the show really needs as far as growing its fan base. But, you know, I'm not going to complain if it's picked up. Because that's really all I want, is I want more Hannibal.
Right, exactly. It doesn't matter who picks it up. Lifetime, like, the Lifetime network can pick it up.
A little part of me would die inside if I was watching Hannibal on Lifetime, but I'd still watch it.
Well, it's perfect because Lifetime was going to make Silence of the Lambs TV show anyway. Might be the perfect avenue to revive that project.
So,
Brian Fuller did say something interesting though in the interview, because he was talking about the future plans for a series, and they asked him directly about Clarice. And he said, well, Clarice wasn't in the plan for season 4 anyway. And then he said, but she's in the plan for season 5. And I'm like...
Yeah, he's already mentioned that if they can't get her, that there's other alternatives they can do. I mean, literally, they could just have another FBI agent named Charisse, you know?
Yeah, Charisse.
I mean, literally, that's all that the rights own is... Clarice is that name, you know, they don't own the rights to the storyline in the book or anything, so, yeah, it's not that big of a deal. I mean, it would just be nice to use Clarice, but, he's talked before about there's other kind of more minor kind of female, agents in the book and stuff that he could elevate and kind of take on the role of Clarice, you know?
Right.
And then you'd be using something from the book material. But you know, so it's not like you just completely replaced her with a generic, you know?
Right. Dancing around rights issues.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, besides this, Hannibal fiasco, which, hey, the one positive thing, people are finally talking about Hannibal.
Right.
Hopefully that will give it the attention it needs to save it. Though I'm starting to feel like Brian Fuller is becoming the next Joss Whedon. All of his shows are critically acclaimed and abruptly canceled.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's got Joss Whedon-itis.
Yeah.
Is what the medical professionals term it.
So what you're saying is he needs to run the MCU.
Yeah, he's going to get Avengers 4.
No, but besides this whole Hannibal fiasco, there's been kind of a lot of dates popping up, mostly for these network shows that really don't look that good.
Yeah.
One I just added to our schedule, though, just like right before I went upstairs to set up for the podcast, is Narcos, which is coming to Netflix, which actually looks really good. It's the next kind of big Netflix show, and it's got Pedro Pascal from Game of Thrones, who played Oberyn. And it's about God, just completely drew a blank right there. The huge Colombian drug kingpin, can't think of his name. The real life I don't know. My mind just went completely blank there, but yeah, it's about a major drug bust kind of thing, and it's following FBI agents and different international agencies, all pursuing this one real life person who I embarrassingly forgot the name of.
Pascal Escobar.
Escobar.
Pablo
Escobar.
Escobar. Yeah.
There you go. Yeah.
Is he stand-in for Osama bin Laden?
So it's so this is about the Pablo Escobar case and the agents that kind of took him down and stuff. So Pedro Pascal, that's
Hey, sounds interesting. One thing I don't mean to keep harping on this, but like NBC canceling Hannibal now shines a brighter light on their abysmal fall lineup.
Yeah.
It's like, oh man, you just got
what is left on NBC? I mean, they lost all of their good comedies because they're all off the air.
Yeah.
Like Community and Parks and Rec and stuff.
Oh yeah, they canceled Community too, and they have nothing.
And they used to have
that.
like these great drama like Parenthood and Friday Night Lights, but they're gone. Chuck is gone. They gave up on Constantine. They're moving back into traditional 4-camera sitcoms.
With Mr. Robinson.
They're kind of going in a discouraging direction.
Yeah.
Yeah, they really
are.
And
they're bringing back Heroes of all shows. Of all shows that people wanted to see come back, Heroes is the one they pick.
Is Tim Kring involved with this iteration?
Yes. He's directly running it again, yeah.
Well, hey, Brian Fuller is in need of a job. Maybe he could take it up.
Oh, God.
Make Heroes great again.
Yeah.
Here's Brian Fuller. One amazing season. And
I think as long as Tim Kring's involved, there's going to be a limit to how much Brian Fuller can escalate that series.
Yeah, really.
So,
did you see the new trailer for Heroes Reborn? I put it up on the site earlier.
No, I haven't gotten a chance to watch it yet.
How does it look?
Yeah, it didn't make me excited. It was like, you couldn't really tell a lot from what was going on because they still kept like everything like tightly wrapped, but they showed some of the new characters with like not zero context to like what any of them are about. So it's just like a bunch of new people you don't recognize doing things. And then
they got Chuck now.
Yeah, they
That's
got Chuck.
right, Zachary Levi.
Zachary Levi didn't even appear in this trailer.
Oh, he didn't?
If he did, it was like for a split second. So that was disappointing. And at the end, they tried to like hype you up because they showed like Hiro Nakamura at the very end of the trailer. And, just to get you like all spiked up, I'm like, yay, he's back. That's it.
I got pretty tired of him. I felt like he had this same shtick that was all about in being really quirky and endearing, and it kind of got ground into the dust in the later seasons. Pretty much after first season.
Yeah, almost at the end of first season, I think. Like, the last episode kind of derailed halfway through. And then that was it. It just kind of kept plummeting downward from there, you know?
It's interesting to note that the version of Hero that appears at the end of this trailer is badass future Hero from season 2.
Oh.
And not like endearing, quirky Hero.
Wait, does this mean that I need to be up on this series and trying to remember who everyone is and from what timeline and all the crazy different people? I just don't have it in me to go back and review.
Just read Wikipedia if you have any interest. I mean,
admittedly, I never watched.
It's not that complex.
Season. I never watched fourth season because I was absolutely appalled at the third season finale. It infuriated me.
I bet the writers of the show didn't even go back and review.
I didn't watch the fourth season beyond like the first 3 episodes because I was just totally like out of it at that point. I was like, this is so bad. I can't do this anymore. And,
was the fourth season the last?
Yeah, it was. It was the one with the Cardis. It was the one with the Cardis and like.
Yeah. Well, they brought in the one guy from Prison Break who was also in Carnival, who's I really like.
Robert Nepper.
Yes, and I really like him.
And he plays the plot king on Flash and Arrow.
Yeah, but they wasted him. He's usually wasted. Most roles he's in, he's wasted.
He's such a good actor, no one knows what to do with him.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I think he gets, like, typecast into these very kind of specific roles, but then, like, once they get him there, they're like, oh, but we don't really know what to do. It's, like, weird, you know? He's one of those guys, he just really needs, like, that kind of breakout moment. I think the closest he got to that was with Prison Break, but then they kind of, you know, overused his character to death, you know?
Definitely, yeah. Well, he's not coming back, is he?
I don't think so.
Okay.
God, I think he might have died, and I don't know. I have no idea in that show.
Death never stops anyone. How many people die and come back to life? I mean, bear in mind that Heroes is the show where Adrian Pasdar's character died, and they kept him around by having Sylar beat him, essentially.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
Like, God. Kill off the character, but then just keep the actor around by having another character impersonate him.
To be fair, Heroes is not the only show that killed off a character that kept the actor around.
That's not always a bad thing. I think
Lost did that with Lot, and Angel did that with Fred.
I was just going to say, that's not always a bad thing. In the case of both Locke and Fred, it was like a haunting reminder, you know, of something very tragic that happened with the character, especially with Fred, you know?
Yeah.
Because they really made a point to show that what happened to her was worse than death.
Right.
And, and so her just existing there and the kind of relationship they developed between, Illyria and Wesley was fascinating, you know?
Yeah, no, that was totally awesome. I mean,
so it's not necessarily a bad thing when you do something like that. It's just that they did it just because they needed to keep the actor, and they didn't really have. They just kind of ham-fisted a reasoning.
Yeah, like Lost and Angel, it felt like it was planned. Heroes felt like what crazy, shocking thing can we do next?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was Heroes' biggest problem. It's like they didn't have a story or plot, so they just kept doing crazy stuff and turned up the ante on that. And it was, after a while, it just made your head hurt. It was like,
yeah, I don't know anybody who's excited about the new season of Heroes. Do you guys know anybody who's interested? Do you guys have like a sibling or something that's like, oh, have you heard about the new season of Heroes coming up? You know, because I see no excitement for it.
No. I mean, I'm gonna watch it, but I mean, no excitement. I mean, I hope it's good, and that's all I can say is I hope it's good. I haven't seen anything to convince me or to make me excited about this. New trailer didn't hype me up for it.
See, there's two reasons I'm gonna watch it. One is just kind of like a morbid curiosity.
Right.
It's just, when something like this happens, I want to see it. I mean, that's the same reason I watched, like, the 2.5 Men where Ashton Kutcher came on. I hate 2.5 Men. Okay? I never watched that show, but I watched that episode just out of the curiosity about what was going to happen with that, because it was such a big deal when it happened. There's that reasoning, so I'll at least watch, like, the first episode. And then Zachary Levi, because I do like Zachary Levi.
It's true. I like Zachary Levi too.
So, and that's it. So if they don't grab me with Zachary Levi in that first episode, that's gonna be all I'm gonna watch.
Zachary Levi is good, but Heroes has proven in the past that they can get good actors on there and waste them. Like they did when they got Kristen Bell on the show.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And it was like, wow, Kristen Bell's going to be on Heroes, and then they barely used her, and it was stupid.
Yeah.
So I hope that doesn't happen with Zachary Levi, where he, like, appears, like, randomly, and they don't use his character very well.
Don't feel bad for Kristen Bell, though. She's a household name now, so.
Yeah, she's a household
name.
This isn't the Veronica Mars days anymore. She's got the name recognition now.
Which she totally deserves.
Oh yeah.
That's what she totally deserves.
So, let's see. Let's talk about, I'm not gonna kind of talk about all the different kind of shows that got dates put up. If you check our website, TVEnthusiast.com, and you go to, in the top area of the website, you'll see a part that says Schedule US. Check that. And, you will see kind of the dates that we put on our calendar for shows that are coming back. It goes all the way through. I think the last thing we have on there is, X-Files in January.
Oh, wow.
So we got a bunch of dates on there. Some stuff still hasn't kind of been confirmed yet on certain dates, but as stuff gets confirmed, as new dates roll out, we add them to the calendar. And, I've been playing with the calendar back and forth for a while, because there's a lot of shows I'm like, why is this still on our calendar? Like, we don't talk about this. We have no interest in this. There's no crossover anymore. So I was like clearing a few things off of it, adding a few things on. There's stuff I don't watch on there, but I just put on because I think I think some people think we kind of might watch this.
Right. Somebody might be interested.
Yeah. So it's always kind of fluctuating. If we do drop something from the schedule and it's something that you wanted on there as a listener, let us know and I'll add it back on. It's just, I never know exactly what, people are going to want there sometimes. We keep our big ones, we keep the Supernaturals and the Arrows and Game of Thrones, all that kind of stuff we're always going to have on our schedule. We're not going to, we're not going to go, I don't know, we'll drop this.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Parker Lewis can't lose 25th year anniversary.
Yeah, I have a lot of those dates too, and some of them are like really kind of interesting ones, like, the 25-year anniversary of the Batman animated series or something. And some of them are going to be like, just kind of almost out of humor, like 25-year anniversary of some like really bad show that everybody remembers, but I
forgot that show existed until I saw that just now.
Oh, that was actually a good show. I like Parker Lewis Can't Lose back in the day.
Yeah, back in the day. Okay, so you do have the date for Heroes Reborn on here. Okay, I don't know if that was like the date was announced before the trailer hit today, or if that was just on the trailer, but
I think the dates were announced like yesterday or something. I remember putting up, because that's when I did a lot of the work on the calendar. I did a bunch yesterday, so that would be Wednesday.
I know the CW just announced all of their premiere dates.
That's up there too now, yeah. I put up Supernatural, Arrow, Flash, iZombie.
Yeah.
All that,
Tuesday, October 6th, to see what happens to the Flash.
Yep, and then the next day, next day for Arrow.
Yay!
Yay!
Still, I believe no date on, Legends of Tomorrow!
Weren't they gonna wait till 2016 anyway?
I think that's probably gonna be like a mid-season show or something.
Yeah, that's a January or February 2016 show, I think.
Yeah. That's usually when they do like kind of new stuff like that, is usually mid-season. So
I'm fine with waiting. I'm sure it'll be awesome, and there's Arrow and Flash to watch in the meantime.
Right, exactly. I mean, I like the idea that Legends of Tomorrow will air during the break between, like, the Arrow and the Flash when they go on
like
break.
Agent Carter.
Yeah, like Agent
Yeah.
Carter. So we're not stuck waiting with nothing for, like, those shows to return.
Yeah.
I think this is a smart thing, like, networks are starting to do, yeah, like you said, like with Agent Carter. And I think this is a smart thing that these networks are starting to do, is, like, making new shows to fill those gaps.
It's interesting because it kind of creates a new job title.
It
Because
does.
you have your showrunners, but now you have to have kind of somebody above the showrunners almost, which is, what they're doing with the movies now. I mean, that's what, what's his name at Marvel, at the
Kevin
MCU.
Feige.
Yeah, it's what Kevin Feige does. He's basically like the MCU czar,
Yeah.
He kind of like oversees all that stuff, makes sure that everything connects right and stuff. And so when you do these kind of things, you make these kind of positions. It's like these new kind of interesting positions that kind of free up the showrunners to kind of mostly just worry about their own stuff, but also it's a whole new job position.
Yeah,
I think
that's a
that's
pretty
why the
powerful
MCU
one.
works as well as it does. And why I'm skeptical about the DC cinematic universe, because it doesn't seem to have a Kevin Feige equivalent.
Yeah.
It doesn't. It's
And we have dominant showrunners on the DC TVU side, with the Arrowverse and stuff, but, they're busy with shows, so they really should, maybe, I don't know, one of them should step down and just become the kind of DC TV czar.
I feel like Greg
or maybe they
Berlanti
should
is probably
work with
the
somebody.
closest.
Yeah.
He's the one who developed Supergirl for CBS.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think so. I think so. I don't think, like, DC, like, grasp that, they need, like, this overseer, or at least they don't yet grasp that. Probably
No,
because,
they'll just add a villain called the Overseer to Gotham.
yeah.
Poor Gotham.
So there's some new news about that, about some more villain casting for that. Every time I turn around, there's more villain casting on
course.
Gotham.
What else does Gotham do?
Yeah. So, let's move on from that and let's kind of talk about what we've been watching this week. We won't talk about the sci-fi shows. We'll talk about other things. What we've been watching for the last 2 weeks. And then we'll kind of get into the sci-fi shows after that as, its whole own topic. But, I'll kick it off. I was just telling Will, I've been watching Sense8. Have either of you checked that out yet?
No, I've heard such mixed things about it.
It surprises me how divisive it is because I actually quite enjoy it. And some of the people I've heard negative things from are people that I actually kind of respect the opinions of. It's not just like random people,
Uh-huh.
So I don't, I haven't finished it yet. I don't know if like all of a sudden there's going to be some like, shark jump moment, but yeah, it's so far. I mean, I think the worst episode is probably the first one. And that's just because it's trying so hard to kind of establish all the kind of mythological or mythology elements of the series,
Right.
Yeah, and that, there are plenty of shows that don't start out with great pilots that go on to be great shows. So I think it's always fair to say you can't necessarily judge a show by its
I always
pilots.
watch a show I'm interested in a couple episodes beyond the pilot. Unless the pilot is, like, so abysmal.
Yeah.
that...
You can usually see, there's usually an aspect of the pilot you can see where you can see, like, I can see what they're doing, and it wasn't good, but, like, I can see what they were doing,
Yeah.
And then you can kind of take that into your judgment.
Right.
Yeah.
So, that's kind of how I felt with Sense8. I was like, yeah, I'm gonna keep watching this, kind of see what's going on. I started really liking it after the first episode. Now, I don't remember, because I'd mentioned watching this, I believe, on our last podcast. I don't remember how far I was at that point, but I'd say that the episode that really got me on Sense8 was the 4th episode, which I found out later, was directed by, Tom Teichfer, who's a German director that I really like. And I knew he was involved in the series, but I had no idea that he had done that episode. And I just kind of got curious. I'm like, I want to see. I bet you it was him that directed it. Like, I just kind of knew. Like, there's this emotional resonance to the episode that you don't normally get with the Wachowskis. And so I'm like, so I don't think it was the Wachowskis. So it could have been somebody else that worked on. But the other directors seem to all have been kind of like, you know, like visual effects supervisors from the Matrix movies that are now like, you know, trying their hand at directing and stuff. And the Wachowskis did like 7 of the episodes. And so I'm like, okay,
Wow.
you know, Taika did 2, and then the rest, so it was like, you know, that 9, then you take like the remaining 4, and they were just kind of done by their previous visual effects supervisors, basically. So I said, I bet this is Tom Tykwer, and that happens to be the case. He did 2 episodes. The second one I haven't watched yet, but the first one, it reminded me why I like that director so much. And I don't know if you've ever seen any of his works. He did Run Lola Run, Winter Sleepers, Perfume. Let's see what else. My favorite is The Princess and the Warrior is one he did. Very good director, very interesting. He used to work a lot with Franca Potente, who's was in the Bourne Identity.
She's the Bourne movies, yeah.
Very, very good director. Always makes like a really strong emotional connection with the characters. Has like those kind of like aha moments when you're watching one of his movies and like the things start to come together in this very natural way. And then you just kind of feel like that, you know, you'll start tearing up, or you kind of feel that like emotional moment, but it doesn't feel forced. It's not like it's coming from a long conversation or a tearful performance. It's like the things just kind of fit together in this kind of perfect natural way, and then you kind of get emotional about it, you know? And there was a moment like that in the 4th episode of Sense8 where basically all they're doing is they're all singing the same song. All these characters that are connected around the world are all singing the same song, which is What's Up by Four Non Blondes. And I think that's what it's called, or is it just called What's Going On? I think it's called What's Up. And they're all singing the same song, but they're all in like these different kind of positions, you know, like you can tell like there's certain aspects of the lyrics that relate to different characters in completely different ways. But the moment of them all kind of singing the song at the same time is almost like they're getting to know themselves, because each of them individually is kind of like a part of the others. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
They're connected over this thing, so it's like, it's almost like they're this single kind of hive mind entity with individual personalities over the top of that. And so all of them are like a part of themselves in a sense. And there's this kind of like almost a joyful moment where it seems like they're kind of exhilarated in this aspect that they're starting to really connect with these other identities of themselves, or they call it like the cluster or whatever. So the other people in this cluster. And I thought it was a really powerful moment, brought tears to my eyes, you know. And then it kind of, you know, it slowed down a little bit. It's still really good. And I think what's interesting about Sense8 is that it seems like it's such a heavy premise show. But, you know, and this isn't necessarily an odd thing, because it's the case with a lot of these shows. It's the case with Lost, for example, where the real strength isn't from these heavy premises. It's from how you use the heavy premise to bring together these characters in very interesting ways that are very emotional and relevant.
I completely agree with that assessment.
And I think that that's what they're doing with Sense8 a lot too. And you know, I think a lot of the series is about acceptance. I mean, there's you know, a transgendered character in it, there's a gay character in it, and you kind of get into these, like, the struggles, these lives, and some of the best parts of the series are just when these characters, they can kind of just communicate with each other. It's like they're in both places at once. It's like, you know, one guy's sitting in his apartment in Chicago, and all of a sudden, like, you know, a girl from a Korean jail is in his apartment. And she's still in the Korean jail, and then he's in the Korean jail with her, too. So it'll, like, kind of cut back and forth while they're talking, you know, like, you're seeing it kind of from these different perspectives, and they're seeing both. So it's really interesting the way they do it, but what's really good about the show, the way it works, is that they pair up these characters that, you know, have these parallels in their lives based on kind of the events that are happening. So maybe one of them's having trouble dealing with, you know, getting to see their father again and how they've wanted to see their father again for so long. And then the other one that they connect with is this person that never got to know his father and regretted that, but always knew his mother. And then this other person that's getting to see her father, her mother died when she was young, and she, you know, so she can't see her again. And so you kind of create these weird parallels between them, and it's just these kind of conversations where they come to realizations and self-actualize that makes it so interesting to watch.
Huh. I don't know. Like, I think it's great that you've had such a good experience with that. I think the premise just still doesn't appeal to me yet. But, I mean, somewhere down the line, I maybe would try it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
If you do, definitely at least watch past the first episode.
Okay.
Because the first episode is all premise.
Sure.
You don't really start getting into, like, the more kind of character-defining stuff until, like, the second episode and such, so.
Okay, well, that's good to know.
Yeah. Will, do you have any thoughts on it? Anything does it sound good to you?
I mean, it sounds interesting. I'm not sure if I'll like it. But it's on Netflix. I mean, it's right there. You know, if I'm bored, why not check it out? You know, I mean,
yeah,
it's that kind of thing where, like, again, it's what we were talking about with Hannibal, where it's the accessibility. It's like, I'm not sold on it, but it's so accessible that there's really, you know, I don't have to go out of my way to check it out, and maybe I'll like it and get into it. You know, and that is the key factor, is if you make things easy for people to do, it's going to be a lot easier for you to build an audience.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's the crux of it. As for the actual show, I'm not sold on it. I'm not really a big fan of the Wachowskis in general. I like the first Matrix. I like their adaptation of V for Vendetta. But I think that's about all from them that I enjoyed.
I think the best thing they did is that they brought Tom Tykwer on. And I think the worst thing they did is choose to direct most of the episodes themselves.
Is it just me, or more and more film directors coming and directing episodes of TV? I think it's pretty cool.
Oh yeah, big time.
I think it is.
That's been happening for a while. Even like Reaper, like the pilot was, you know, pilot episodes is the big thing with that. Reaper, the pilot episode, was directed by Kevin Smith.
Oh, sure. But I don't mean, because I know that's been happening for a while, because I know, for instance, Brett Ratner directed the pilot of Prison Break, Bryan Singer directed the pilot of House, and so on and so forth. But I mean, even just like, I know, like on Arrow, they've had, the guy who directed the Percy Jackson movies, I think, has been coming and directing movie episodes, which is really cool. Like, I think it's a cool idea that film directors will come to television.
It's just because the production values on TV has risen so far that now you can actually have like a real semblance of a director's vision. Whereas before it was purely like a writer's medium with television, because the cameras, you know, you weren't going to be doing anything fancy. They just couldn't afford it. You know, and now you're starting to get into this kind of field where you can actually get this kind of, you know, interesting visual storytelling going on, in these shows, and that allows like a director to kind of put more of their vision into it.
Yeah.
So we've been seeing a lot of that. I think that goes back to, you know, that's people first started talking about that big time, I think, when Sopranos started up, and it was just, you know, you started getting these actors and directors and, you know, just different, talent from different positions from the feature film industry moving to TV, you know?
Yeah, which I think it just goes to show how much more prominent and respected television is becoming, which I'm certainly glad to see happen, because I think it deserves to be respected.
And you know, Game of Thrones had Neil Marshall direct a couple episodes too. That was a pretty big deal.
Yeah.
So it's
and Hannibal's had a few done by is it Drew Goddard, I think? No, it's not Drew Goddard, was it? It was,
Oh, I don't know. I wasn't even paying attention.
Hannibal had a high-profile director. I can't think of his name right now. My brain's not working correctly. I think he directed the pilot and some of their key ones. I think he did the season 2 finale, too. But yeah, it's been, developing as a kind of almost a more important medium than film for a while now. And we've talked about before that we're kind of all on board on that idea that, long format storytelling just works better. You get more invested in the characters.
They talk about David Slade on Hannibal.
That's it, yeah.
Okay.
So, what have you been watching, Kat?
Well, I'm still, working my way through Arrow, 'cause I love it. And then I've been catching up on iZombie. I'm still 2 episodes until the finale. And then, I've been catching up on Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt, 'cause I actually didn't watch that when it first came out, 'cause I didn't have time. So I've been watching it now, so that's pretty fun.
So,
Nice.
First I wanna get started with iZombie, 'cause I feel like around the last 3 or 4 episodes, that series really improved. And you were kind of a little bit down on it, the last time we talked. How are you feeling now?
More or less the same, but I do have 2 episodes left and they could change my mind.
Mm-hmm.
There was a twist in the last episode I watched, which got me, and I was kind of happy the way it surprised me, which I thought was pretty cool. But, I don't know, I'll have to wait and see how I feel about the last 2 episodes.
I unfortunately had to drop iZombie now because Hulu shenanigans struck again. I was following along with it, and then I lost my internet for like a week or 2, and then I came back, and then Hulu decided to dump all the episodes.
Rude.
And now they have, for some reason, they have episode 1, episode 2, and episode 10 on here. I think I was on episode...
Because that just makes so much sense.
Of course. Why not?
Yeah, okay.
I think I was on episode 6 when I lost it, so I was hoping to pick up from there, and nope, not.
I gotta feel bad for him, because that over at Hulu, they're like, what the fuck, and then like CW will be like, okay, you can have these episodes now, and they're like, what?
What?
Because this isn't Hulu, and so like Hulu's gotta be kind of like, every time this happens, they gotta be like, okay, just take it in stride.
Yeah. Oh, it's so frustrating.
So I also want to talk to you, though, about Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt. What do you think about that? You had watched, I think, just the first episode before, right?
Actually, I hadn't watched any of it before.
Oh, okay.
Oh, no, that's not true. I had, anyway, that's beside the point. I watched the first 4 seasons of 30 Rock, which I thought was okay. I never really loved it. And I know that Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt is kind of in the same vein. So, but I think it's pretty charming. Obviously, Ellie Kemper is perfect in the title role, but I really like Titus.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, Titus is great. Obviously, Ellie Kemper, obviously she makes that show. I mean, the show was obviously built around her as an actress. And it's her charm and her enthusiasm that really makes the show work. Because, Titus is a fun character.
Her bosses too. Her boss is
like
her boss
crazy.
is
in the
like,
last couple episodes. She's hilarious.
Why am I forgetting the actor's name? Jane Krakowski.
Oh
yeah, Jenna was her character.
Not that different of a role than the role she played on 30 Rock.
Yeah. But she's absolutely hilarious, especially like in the last couple episodes of the series or the season. She's really funny in those last couple ones. So.
I mean, so
Did you finish Kimmy Schmidt? Well,
I haven't yet. I still gotta watch the last few episodes, but I really enjoyed it. What I did watch.
If only we had unlimited time.
Yes, I know,
right?
If I didn't have a job to go to and I could just sit here watching all these shows, I would.
So, Will, what have you been watching the last couple weeks?
Gotta admit, not much. I watched Game of Thrones. I'm caught up on Hannibal, except for the episode they aired tonight. That's about it. In the last couple of weeks, I've been pretty busy, so I haven't had time to sit down and watch something.
So you kept your eyes on the big boys.
Yes.
So I think we talk enough about Game of Thrones and Hannibal on our respective things. So if you do want to see our opinions on Game of Thrones and Hannibal, you can check our YouTube channel, or just the front page on our site, and you'll see a bunch of links to our stories on that. I think the last one we did for Hannibal, we ended up talking for an hour and a half or something.
Yeah.
Normally our Hannibal discussions are only 20 minutes or something, just because, unlike Game of Thrones, Game of Thrones is so ridiculously complex with so many characters, where Hannibal, we're just kind of talking about one character's story.
Right.
And basically just going into depth about the psychology of it, which, usually we finish about 20 minutes, 30 minutes.
Hannibal is so condensed because Hannibal only concerns itself with, two characters. Well, maybe three. I think Jack Crawford's important. So Hannibal...
Much less happens in Hannibal. It's so focused on just kind of the deep psychological ramifications of what is happening.
I think we just kind of hit something the last time we talked about it, where...
It's also the cancellation,
cancellation. There was just so much to discuss last week with that.
Yeah.
And, so that's why that went on so long. I don't think this week, unless something crazy happens, I don't think this week's discussion will be as long either.
Yeah, probably not. Unless we just go on more about the cancellation and how frustrating it is.
With lots of weeping and wailing and gnashing of teeth.
We actually had a pretty good conversation just about kind of the idea of where, it would be good to pick up. And we went over kind of some channels that, would be good fits for Hannibal, and what would be where it would be good for the channel and where it would be good for the show. There's certain channels or services or whatever that would be very beneficial to the show, and there's certain ones where it would be more beneficial to the channel, and we had some weird ones. I mean, we're talking about USA. I would have never thought USA is a good source for Hannibal, but if you think about it, it's owned by NBC, and their new big show, Mr. Robot, is this very dark nihilistic show that would pair perfectly with Hannibal.
I still gotta watch
it. Just fits with that.
Mr. Robot.
So good. That aired on Thursday, on Wednesday, yesterday. Finally aired. You can still catch the first episode. It's still everywhere. You can get on Google Play, iTunes, YouTube, whatever. Very good. Highly recommend that show, especially if you dig Fight Club. If you dig Fight Club, this is Fight Club. I mean, that's best way I can put it. I did an article on that just yesterday, before the episode came out. I put up an article about why you should be watching Mr. Robot. So you can check that out on our main site. Let's kind of dive into our main topic now, which is something else we've all been watching. Will was only able to watch one of these, so but I'll get to that in just a second. So first off, we're going to be talking about sci-fi. SYFY. Formerly, sci-fi is the abbreviation for science fiction, but then, marketing happened.
It's like they wanted to distance themselves from science fiction for some reason.
They're like, what can we do to make our sci-fi channel more profitable? I know, let's get rid of the science fiction part of the sci-fi.
And air lots of wrestling.
It's hilarious because the person they put in charge of the Sci-Fi Channel, who decided that sci-fi wasn't mainstream and wasn't going to be successful for the channel, made that decision to get rid of all that genre content just right before as genre content was going to explode and come back into style.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
Little did they know the comic book revolution was about to take off.
They were kind of ahead of their time for a little bit, with shows like Battlestar Galactica, and then they just lost sight.
For sci-fi to have another BSG level show.
So these two new shows, I don't think, right off the bat, I'm going to say I don't think either of them are BSG tier.
The one I watched
definitely not.
certainly
But
was
PSG
not.
is a high bar. You
Yeah,
can't judge everything.
there's
according to
not much that
BSG.
reaches that tier, period, on any channel.
Just because you're not BSG level doesn't mean you're not worth watching.
Yeah. So, I'm gonna get to, though, one thing about this first is that Will was only able to watch, what was it, Killjoys?
Killjoys. Because,
And the reason he was only able to watch Killjoys, I'll let Will take this one.
this is frustrating. So I got on Hulu to watch the shows today for the podcast, and I launched Killjoys. That ran fine. I watched that great. They said, okay, now on to Dark Matter. I loaded up Dark Matter. It has like a little key symbol up in the corner next to it. I thought, okay, that's kind of odd. I don't know what that means. So I launched Dark Matter, and it says Hulu requires me to connect with my cable provider in order to watch this show. And,
Dun dun dun!
yeah. And my cable provider does not support, and my cable provider was not listed, thus it does not support the viewing of that content, because it's Time Warner, and Time Warner sucks.
What?
So
this is just more of this crap, you know?
yeah, more of this crap. It's like, well, I shouldn't need a cable provider to watch anything on Hulu. That is patently ridiculous in the first place. It just shows how, like, we still, even though we're progressing forward, there's still somebody slamming on the brake. Yeah. They're so clinging on to this archaic system, you know, where you absolutely need to have a cable subscription. You know, for something that's streaming online, for it to come up and say, well, you need a cable subscription, and then you have to be dependent on your cable provider buying into that service in the first place, it's maddening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's start off with Killjoys then, since that's the one we all got to watch. Do you guys have any just kind of base, quick impressions about Killjoys? Liked it, hated it?
I liked it. I mean, I wasn't blown away or anything, but it was enjoyable.
It was fine. I thought maybe it was trying to do a little bit too much, but I liked its ambitions.
You could clearly see that Firefly kind of influence streaks running through it, you know, they're like randomly like cursing something in a different language bits and
right.
Well, and kind of the evil, though I feel like you see a lot of this kind of thing in general, but like there's the kind of the corporations are in charge.
Yeah.
And there's rumblings of a revolution wanting to rise up against.
Yeah, it's got a lot of sci-fi cliches and tropes, which I guess
they both do. Both of these shows do.
I mean, I don't know how much I feel like docking it for that stuff, because it's not so much. I think the execution is, it's not so much that the cliches are there and present, it's what they do with them, how they make them interesting in their own universe.
Yeah. And you know what? It's okay to start with familiar elements that are a little bit maybe cliche archetypes. I think it's just insofar as you can eventually make them your own.
Right,
yeah.
Exactly. And it's
well, I mean, yeah, Lost started off with lots of cliche character tropes and stuff.
Oh, yeah, totally.
And that's, I think that especially when you do something with an ensemble cast, it's necessary to do that, just to kind of instantly get you to understand where a character might be coming from before you get to know them better. But yeah, less of an ensemble cast on this does have a very, I mean, you can see, yeah, it's almost like they took straight parts of Firefly they liked and said, okay, let's adapt this into our story. You know, it's hard to kind of fault them for it when people want more Firefly, you know? It's almost like, you know, it's not necessarily a bad thing for them to say, okay, what did people like about Firefly? How can we deliver this?
Right.
And I think that's what both of these shows did. Both of these shows are basically really fitting into that lovable rogue type character, you know? That's what they're trying to kind of populate with, which is something people want very badly.
Well, and I like that it demonstrates that even though it had a short run, Firefly has still had an influence on the landscape.
Yes. So, Killjoys, I thought it was a lot of fun, actually. That's kind of what I liked about it. There are, like I said, there are those parts where it's just like, this is too Firefly, where it's almost kind of a little annoying. Cause it's like, oh man, come on, do your own thing a little bit, But, the same things about Firefly that made me really like it and made it really fun to watch also make this fun to watch. So,
Right.
Yeah, I mean, it's, I'd say this is to Firefly what Grimm is to, Supernatural. It's like
I
a
can see
lesser
that.
but still fun show.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I agree with that assessment. If you're comparing it to Firefly, it's definitely lesser than Firefly. Okay, this is not going to replace Firefly for anybody in any way.
No.
But do we want anything to replace Firefly? I'd rather someone kind of take Firefly's foundation and discover something new.
Right, which
Yeah.
is what I'm hoping this show does, and I'm hoping this show does find its identity, and right now it has the potential to do that. It's still a pilot, so it's going to be...
Yeah.
It's
Still just the first episode here,
Yeah,
and first episodes are always going to be kind of like that. I mean, the first episode of Flash was just almost a straight Spider-Man ripoff.
I think it has... I think right now, from watching the pilot, the show has everything it needs to be probably not a great show, but to be a highly enjoyable science fiction show.
Yeah.
And I
agree.
I wanted to say easily my biggest beef with this show, and I have this problem so much with iZombie, and I had this problem with Veronica Mars, is I hate it when a show has a female lead, and I think it's because maybe they're in a genre that they feel the viewership is slightly leans male, so as a result they say, yes, we have a woman as a lead, but we're going to overcompensate by making every single other major character male. And it's not like we're talking about a woman and 3 men, we're talking about a woman and 9 men. And I find it really frustrating, because I'm like, the universe is not 90% male.
You're right. There was like 0 other females in that pilot. Now that I think back on it, and it's
Yeah. Hopefully that's something we get more of. I mean, I'd like to see their little cast of characters on their ship expand.
right.
Definitely.
That's something I'd like to see, and
But
hopefully
maybe
that
it
means
would- Maybe it would have been more even if there was 2 males and 2 females instead of just the 2 males and the 1 female.
Yeah. Also, I don't want them to go into love triangle territory.
Oh jeez, I hope not. I mean, I don't know. It's hard to tell right now because we don't. I really hope they don't have Shawn Ashmore's character secretly have a crush on her, even though they're best friends.
Right?
That would be yeah. I feel don't do that. Don't make them romantically involved. They work great.
Yeah.
They work great as close friends.
Yeah.
So Sean Ashmore, you were already involved in that love triangle thing, the
Yeah.
multi-season love triangle thing.
You were already involved.
No more.
Do
And
the,
I think an advantage of adding more, at least maybe down the line, cast members to the ship, is I feel like X-Files and Supernatural have demonstrated the limitations of having a really small cast. Because both went, especially in their later years, you just feel oh, how many times can we explore the codependent relationship of Sam and Dean? When you only have 2 characters, there's usually a limited amount of dynamics you can go into, whereas if you have, say, 5 or 6 characters, there's way more that you can do.
That's why it's always so tragic when they kill off characters on Supernatural. 'Cause
Speaking
you're
of-
no, now it's just 17 again.
Speaking of Supernatural, that show has no major female characters to speak of, and when they do it,
Right?
Yeah.
I know. They've tried. In their
They
defense,
just killed off
they
the best one they
sincerely
had.
tried.
yeah, every time they introduce a major female character in Supernatural, she ends up dead, and it's back to just Sam and Dean again.
And Mark Shepard,
It's
because Mark Shepard always winds up playing
He's kind of the
lead role.
female character of the show, in a
And
sense.
Mark Shepard and Castiel, of course.
He kind of plays that role. Mark Shepard kind of plays that female role, kind of like gets in the way between Sam and Dean, you know, causes them to kind of fight and stuff,
Are you
you
sure
know.
that isn't Castiel? Because from my understanding, there's a lot of sexual tension between Dean and Castiel, or so the fandom tells me.
Oh, yes. Yes.
No, but they directly play on it with Castiel. Like, they specifically fit him into, like, seriously, like, it's almost as if his character is written as, like, a female demon character, and then they just had Mark Shepard play it. Seriously, Will, think about that the next time you watch it. You'll be like, oh, wow.
Next time I see Mark Shepard in that role, I'm gonna think about it from that angle, and it's probably gonna blow my mind.
But yeah, let's see, what else? Let's move on from Killjoys then. Let's talk about Dark Matter. So, you okay with us spoiling this for you, Will?
Go
I mean,
ahead.
there's not much to spoil. It's early in the show.
I'm not invested in the show at all at this point, having not seen anything about it other than a short trailer, so go ahead, spoil away.
Okay, so Dark Matter, I think,
And besides,
I don't know, it's...
Hulu won't let, Time Warner and Hulu won't let me watch it anyway, so.
You're not allowed to watch Dark Matter.
No!
They're all, damn that Will, always trying to watch our content.
I know, right?
You're not allowed to watch our content.
Trying to become a fan of our shows, is he?
It reminds me of, I think, what was it, when there was that rumor going around about Spider-Man with, Freddie Prinze Jr. apparently really wanted to be in Spider-Man. And apparently he was like almost like stalking Sam Raimi.
Oh my god.
And Sam Raimi made some comment where it's like, if I had my way, Freddie Prinze Jr. wouldn't even be allowed to watch Spider-Man or something.
Aww. Ever since he's joined BioWare, I like Freddie Prinze Jr. I think he's doing good work for them.
He's working for BioWare, what?
Like, he was a voice actor for Mass Effect 3 and Dragon Age Inquisition.
Oh, okay.
I could see him doing some writing too. He did some story development for the WWE, actually.
Oh.
He was working behind the scenes, like, developing characters.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, getting back to Dark Matter. That was a
So
weird
yeah,
little
let's get
tangent.
back on topic here at Dark Matter. Dark Matter is, if Killjoy is filled with tropes, Dark Matter is, like, overloaded with them.
Oh, okay.
It's, like, spilling out from every corner.
But you know what?
geez.
I enjoyed Dark Matter more than Killjoys.
I actually did too. Part of that could just be that we've had 2 episodes.
I didn't get to watch the second episode. I
Oh,
wanted
okay, maybe
to,
that
but
isn't
I
the
didn't
case
have
then.
time.
No, is there 2 episodes because Dark Matter's, like, premiered, like, a week earlier than Killjoys?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, Sci-Fi's back to doing, like, crazy science fiction Fridays. And they have Defiance, which I believe is in its 4th season, maybe 3rd season. I don't remember. I watch it, but I just don't remember what season it's in. And then after that, it's I believe Dark Matter and then Killjoys. So they're airing these like back to back on
That's a
Friday
solid
nights,
lineup.
which used to be the Sci-Fi Hour, if you remember. I mean, Friday used to be Stargate and BSG.
Oh, good times. I remember those days.
Oh,
Yeah. So you got 3 hours of Sci-Fi every Friday, coming.
Friday seems to be, like, the best time for science fiction. The time traditionally networks
It's
want to
because
put
the
their
geeks
science
stay
fiction.
in because they don't have dates. And
Exactly.
Ouch.
that's like where that came from. That's like where that ideology actually came
It's
from.
so nice to know that stereotypes about geeks are alive and well.
Yeah, so if you're watching Dark Matter, you're probably a geek with no date.
Well, you know what?
Should
I
they
don't
know
give
by
a
now that
crap
that means I
about
don't have
what
a date on
society-
any night?
I don't give a crap about what society thinks of my social life. I enjoy science very much. Thank you. But
It's
no,
all
getting-
should they
getting
have
back to
learned
the-
by now that it's not Friday nights, but every night that I don't have a date?
Yeah, I know. Right? Exactly. It's every night.
Well, getting back to
People,
the
come on.
subject of tropes, like, I found myself surprisingly okay with it. Like, almost every single one of the characters was like, oh, hey, that's the Jack character from Lost. That's the Kate character from Lost. That's the Sawyer character from Lost. I was kind of okay with it. I think for one
The
thing
Sawyer / Jane character?
yeah, right?
So
One thing
basically
I'm
Lost
actually
on a
pleasantly
spaceship.
surprised by is the first guy who wakes up is your very good-looking young white male. And I was like, oh,
with
great,
the
he's going to be the leader and the male, and the leader and the protagonist. And then, like, he kind of disappeared and didn't develop much in the pilot, which I was kind of okay with. Because I kind of liked that the character basically took over. It's like, oh, this is way more
like, literally, like, knocked him out and took over.
Yeah, and, like, it's pretty clearly about halfway through the episode that she's pretty much running things. And I found that so refreshing. Because I thought for sure he was going to be the big heroic type, as is usually the case. And
well,
then,
when you consider that role and you consider when they actually first encountered each other, it makes it even funnier because she literally, like, knocked him out and took him. Because they were both kind of running for this terminal and trying to figure out what to do.
And
he gets there first, she gets there second, knocks him out, and takes over.
And when he says, why did you do that? She says, you were in the way. And it's like, oh, that's cool. I like her.
Which is actually pretty funny, too, because the producers of Lost said the original plan was to just kill off Jack right away and have Kate be later. And it's like...
Yeah, the way the pilot died in the pilot is the way that Jack was originally going to die.
Right.
So,
exactly.
But so I'm okay with it. Like, I like that he was kind of. I felt like he kind of emerged a little bit from his archetype by not standing forward as the obvious hero leader, and it's a little bit more muddled as to what exactly he's going to become. So, I mean, that alone gave me optimism that the series is like utilizing archetypes, but will hopefully develop them into something interesting.
Well, in a way, he kind of took on a role, the male character kind of took on a role that's usually more left for female characters, in that he's kind of like the moral guideline of the group or something, you know?
Yeah.
Which is usually something that's like, okay, this is our female character is going to moralize now. The Felicity moment, you know?
You've just been biased because of how terrible Felicity was.
Oh my God.
No, but it's like a common thing, you know? It's like, that's, okay, we need a character that's going to spell out the moral guideline. Well, where's our female character?
I
you know?
actually hate it in shows when characters, like, start to moralize, and it's like, no, don't do this.
It's not too bad in this. I mean, it's not like, you know, it's more like, you know, should we help them at all, or should we just leave them high and dry?
I mean, it was a nice little moral dilemma. And then, of course, I actually kind of liked at the ending that it's like, I'm totally going to spoil all this for you, though. But I mean, for what it's worth, at the end, we find out that there are all these murderer terrorist people that are kind of terrible. And it's like, okay, so all of that, none of their morality right now really got it.
Yeah. So it's kind of funny, yeah. It's an interesting show. I think I like the second episode a lot too. They're kind of getting into the idea of like who sent them as being like these corporations or whatever. So you're getting the same kind of corporation thing they're going on there, which makes me go like, why don't they just like unify it and make it so that Killjoys and this take place in the same world?
That's totally what I was thinking. Oh my gosh. I think because they have like the exact same tone and aesthetic to them, I was like, that would be so cool if they were just different branches of the same universe.
If they just kind of started dropping a few breadcrumbs here and there, and then, you know, somewhere in like the third season, they're like...
that would be really
direct
cool.
reference, you know?
That would be so freaking cool. That would have that kind of thing. But I couldn't help noticing that there seem to be evil corporations at play, and given the number of evil corporations are ruining everything that I've seen in so many other places, I think that just goes to show how much the American public is really very giant corporations right now. Because, like, I watched the first season of Continuum, and she comes from a future where corporations are basically the government. Or I've been playing Borderlands, where there are a bunch of big giant corporations that are basically using lots of people to fight against each
Mr.
other.
Robot has that too. There's a company called E-Corp, and in the series, because the main character is like an unreliable narrator, and you see things from his perspective, there's a certain point when, like, he has like a very Fight Club-like moment where he's like, E-Corp, he's all, in my head, I just started replacing E with evil. Mm-hmm. And you see like the logo like change with like static, and from that point on, when like any character refers to the company, they call it Evil Corp.
That's awesome. Note to self: scrap script where corporations rule the world.
No, it's okay. I think it's very much a reflection of how the American mindset, how we feel about corporations right now, and how we're worried about corporations. So I don't think it's bad all of these are using them. I don't think they're doing it conscientiously. I think it's just a reaction to the current state of corporations. I like Dark Matter. Like, I didn't have the chance to watch the second episode, but I want to. Whereas Killjoys, I kind of finished it and went, I don't care as much. So.
It's almost like Dark Matter makes me want to watch more Killjoy.
Really?
Like, because they both air on Friday nights, and because I'm watching them on TV, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
And I'm not watching them live, but I'm watching on DVR. It's like, I'll watch Dark Matter. This happened with when Killjoys first premiered. I watched Dark Matter, and then after Dark Matter, I was like, I want to watch Killjoys now, you know? And it's, you know, you watch that, and I feel the same way coming up this week. I'm probably going to feel the same way, where it's like, it's going to put me in the mood where I want more. And because they're so similar, it's going to scratch that itch a little, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, no, I can totally see that.
Totally. I'm down for more Killjoys. I think that was a pretty fun show.
Hopefully we can find some way for you to watch Dark Matter.
Hopefully, yeah.
Right?
Maybe Sci-Fi's website, I don't know.
Oh yeah, I didn't think about that. Sci-Fi's website's probably the same deal. Where,
yeah, they might do authentication, but they might also have a wider scope on their authentication.
They might. It's hard to tell. Time Warner is really stupid about this. Because I remember when, like, HBO Go was, like, a thing. Like, brand new.
Yeah, they took a while before they were signed up on that.
Yeah, they did.
Speaking of giant evil corporations, I hear a lot of bad things about Time Warner these days.
Yeah, Time Warner and Comcast, you're hearing a lot about both of those.
Oh yeah, Comcast from what
We've been hearing a lot about Comcast for quite a while.
Comcast, from what I understand, is worse, but Time Warner is still horrible.
Well, Comcast just tried to buy Time Warner.
Yeah,
so.
I know, that was scary, actually. That was like, no. Please, God.
Given that, while I was watching both shows, they kept showing trailers for Sharknado 3.
Starring
My
the
response is, I'm really glad that sci-fi is trying to show actual sci-fi again instead of schlock B-movies.
Yeah.
Well, they're always going to have that aspect, because even when they were at their best, they still had, like, Roger Corman Theater and stuff, so they always had the schlock
They
movies.
do, like,
So I feel like that's a necessary part of their lineup, you know?
Sci-fi likes those because they're cheap to produce, and they produce really good ratings for them. And because of how ridiculous they are, people watch them. Like,
yeah, and it gives them like stuff like Twitter attention.
Yeah,
because people will hop on Twitter and like razz the hell out of the movie while it's going.
I remember when Joel McHale was like doing the soup, he'd always like have like a clip from one of those movies on there to make fun of. So yeah, it gets a lot of attention. So I mean, it's all a win-win for them.
I mean, they still seem to be relegating it to the same time. I mean, they do it like Saturdays, which they don't air any original they never aired, I think, original content on those days. So, as long as it doesn't like take over, as long as they're not like Sharknado the series.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That's gonna fill the slot.
Don't give them ideas. Someone just turned Scream into a TV series.
Yeah, that's true. So Sharknado the series, that some executive is listening to this podcast going, yes! That's it. That's gold. I'm gonna get a promotion.
Yeah, as long as it doesn't end up like that, then I think it's fine. It's fine to have it kind of relegated there. It's kind of funny. I almost get enjoyment just from the commercials. Like I don't actually watch the things, but I get like enough of the kind of schlock enjoyment that people watch those movies for just from the commercials. It's like a part of me is happy they exist just because they exist, not because I want to watch them.
Right.
My family watched the first Sharknado over New Year's, and it was terrible. It was so bad. Terrible
in a good way? Did it like bring you guys closer through laughter?
Well, I mean, we all laughed at it hysterically, but it was pretty bad. I don't know.
But that's what it's supposed to be like at that point.
About it being whether or not it was terrible in a good way.
So speaking of kind of weird, over-the-top movies starring the Hoff, this is a little off-topic, but have either of you watched Kung Fury?
Kung Fury.
Oh, you guys gotta check that out. It's basically like a movie on YouTube that was made through Kickstarter, I think. It's a half hour long, and it's basically like if you took like what every little boy in the 80s wanted to see in a movie and put it all together in like in the most like horribly wrong package ever. Like that's what Kung Fury is. I mean, it's got like robots and time travel and Hitler and like, you know, Kung Fu, and it's just Vikings, dinosaurs. It's just everything. And it's so crazy, and it's like, because it's only like a half hour, it's like every second there's like a new joke or a, you know, it's constant. It's hilarious. Like, it'll give you nostalgia for like the era and stuff too. They even put in stuff like, you know, back when VCRs, you'd have like the tracking would go off on the VCRs. So there's like bad tracking moments and stuff. It's great. But let's get back on topic. We've drifted up. Everybody watch Kung Fury if you get a chance. It's free. It's on YouTube. It's like a half hour long.
You know what else is terrible and it's coming back? Is Under the Dome is coming back for its third season, apparently. And I don't know what the hell's happening in that show, but apparently I read a synopsis of what happened up until now, and it's the most bizarre stuff in the world. It's like...
Did either of you watch it at all? Any of the Under the Dome?
I haven't, no.
I watched 5 or 6 episodes of the first season, and I can't get over how bad it was, how cheesy, like, the mystery was, and how bad the characters were.
I think I watched, like, the first 2 episodes, and yeah, it's so bad.
I mean, yeah.
It's unfortunate because it has kind of... I don't know if the premise itself is kind of fun, but there's, like, some good building blocks there.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah, there was some good
but
things.
It's no good.
Apparently season 2 ended with a wall collapsing in a cave, revealing a girl who was once dead, then alive, then sucked into a black hole. And now... I don't know what the hell's going on with that show.
Yeah, I just don't even bother with that.
Yeah, Dean Norris from Breaking Bad. I think,
which is kind of like that proof of that long-standing theory that, like, if you come off something really good, the next thing you do is going to be kind of like nobody's going to like.
Yeah. Really.
So yeah, it's Dean Norris doing that. Yeah. I was happier to see Dean Norris and Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt.
It was like so bizarre though, because like there's actual talent behind that show. I mean, it's based off of a novel by Stephen King. Brian K. Vaughan, who was on Lost, you know, who was like one of the writers on Lost for a time. You know, he was one of the head writers on this show, and I just don't know what happened.
Sometimes it's just where it pieces together, like how it pieces together isn't right, you know?
Right.
Like sometimes you think like, oh, this guy was attached to a project. He's really interesting. He's really good. But maybe he wasn't the showrunner. And so maybe only half of his ideas were good and the other half were shot down by the showrunner. And, you know, sometimes you need to really kind of give more credit to the showrunner as kind of like the curator of your experience.
Right.
With a show, you know? Because they don't just write and head up the main thing. They are like the curator of your entire experience of the show.
Sure.
So there's a whole other talent set there that I think people don't necessarily pay as much attention to. Like Joss Whedon was a great curator. There's people that worked under him that have done great things since, and there are people that worked under him that haven't done great things since.
I don't know. I think Joss Whedon had like an excellent team under him. I mean, Drew Goddard has done some great things since breaking off from that.
Whedon writers show up everywhere, I swear. Ben Edlund, she's written for like Supernatural. Jane Espenson is like
But she's a good example. Jane Espenson worked great on BST, but she worked great under BST under another great showrunner. You look at what she did on her own besides that, It was like Warehouse 13, which wasn't that great, you know?
But maybe it was also just her finding the right project.
I wonder if that's it, because that was her project, I think, Warehouse 13. So
the showrunner.
It might be a case where she's one of those writers that needs a good curator, you know?
Right.
Yeah, it's possible that some people are better as showrunners and some people aren't.
Yeah.
I mean,
you look at that. I mean, she worked under Joss and she worked under Ron Moore. Those are two amazing showrunners, you know?
Yeah.
Yep, that's true. And then Stephen S. DeKnight, of course, worked under Joss Whedon on Angel, and he did Spartacus and the recent Daredevil, both as showrunner, and those were amazing.
Yeah.
So, I think Joss Whedon had some really good talent under him, you know, so.
So much so that he has not been showrunner on any of his shows since fifth season of Buffy.
Right, yeah.
Like, he's always left showrunning duties, almost always, to someone else.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's a really interesting job position, showrunner, and it's one of those jack of all trade kind of positions. And it's weird to kind of see some people that you think are going to be very successful in that position that aren't, and some people that you kind of have no expectations of that then just blow your mind, you know?
Yeah.
And that just kind of happens from time to time. I've seen some shows where I've been like, man, this is a really good show. And I like check kind of like on IMDb and check the writing credits, and I'm like, what?
Yeah.
You know, like this guy or this girl came from that? You know?
Yeah, right. And they made this.
And then I've seen other ones where I've been like so excited to see something directly because like, oh, this is somebody who worked on this. That makes me so excited. Then I watch it and I'm like, what?
I mean, but even like the best of people can have like a bad day too, like Joss Whedon with Dollhouse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like you're thinking it's Joss Whedon, so it's going to be amazing, and then it's not, and you're left to wonder why, what happened, you know.
I think Dollhouse was almost like a sympathy project that he wrote for Eliza Dushku.
Yeah.
Well, and
like she's like, you keep picking terrible roles. Here, I'll create a show where you play lots of different roles.
Yeah.
It could also just be like an unpredictable coming together that you can't always necessarily plan for.
One of those
getting like the right writers and the
thing.
right cast and the right premise, you know?
Right.
Yeah, one of those like better than the sum of its parts kind of things.
Yeah. So
I know
have either of you watched The Writer's Room?
I have.
That's hosted by Jim Rash.
I have.
Yeah,
not.
I've seen. I think a few of them. I think I saw the Breaking Bad one.
I've only gotten to watch one so far, but I would kill for him to keep going with that and continue to do more contemporary shows. I think that is the coolest idea in the world. I so want to see more from the writers of these shows talk about their shows. I think that sounds so interesting.
That does.
I only got to watch the Parks and Rec one, but it's such a cool idea.
I want to see the show. That sounds amazing.
It's on Netflix. The first season is streaming on Netflix.
Woo.
Yeah, I believe it's a IFC or Sundance series.
Okay.
It's on the Sundance channel.
Yeah.
Oh, it's on. Okay, no wonder. I've never heard of it.
And they've done a Breaking Bad one. And I think they might have done a Lost one. I'm not sure.
Lost one will be.
They haven't done a Lost one yet, no, but they did one for Game of Thrones. That I'm sure.
Yeah.
Lost one would be interesting.
Lost would be really interesting.
Yeah, it would.
Yeah.
Especially since I think at one point one of the writers basically admitted that a lot of stuff they just made up as they went. Like in terms of like the mysteries.
But I guess I don't feel like that was a surprise, and I feel like that's not necessarily something to hold against me.
Right. No.
Yeah, I think I feel the same way. I feel like people don't understand the kind of nature of TV, and that I feel more impressed that they made it up as they went along, because what they were able to do is like leave kind of not generic, but leave kind of like all-purpose breadcrumbs behind.
Yeah.
And then tie them into something that they wanted to do later. And I think as long as you successfully tie it in, then that's all that matters.
Yeah. And I think there's a tricky line that I think everybody's going to stumble with, where you're trying to plan out just enough, but also leave yourself open enough to improvisation, right? To being, allowing yourself to make things up as you go, to account for, or to incorporate for unaccounted elements. Because I think Lost at its best did that really well, and I think a really good demonstration of that is, for example, third season, where we now know that they had planned from the beginning at some point to change to flash forward, and it changed the entire series. At the same time, they made the characters of Ben and Desmond, both of whom were supposed to be one-off guest stars, into main characters, and they ended up being two of the best and most important characters of the series.
Oh, yeah. And that's pretty amazing.
You kind of go, sometimes you're going to have those experiences, and that's one of the things that's interesting about Lost. I mean, Lost would be a fascinating show to watch. I mean, I feel like we already know a lot of that stuff because there were so many interviews early on about that stuff. But to have it kind of all in one place and kind of going over all of that would be fascinating because, it's interesting how quickly that pilot came together.
Yeah,
right?
And
Lost pilot is stellar. It is a fantastic pilot.
And how they just did it, like how they casted people that were kind of just like, they wrote characters specifically for a lot of the actors.
Yeah, that's right.
And it's just interesting, it's a very different approach. It's because they were putting it together so quickly. And I think the reason they were putting it together so quickly was basically that the guy that greenlit the show was on his way out.
Right.
And him greenlighting Lost was almost like a screw you letter. It was almost like his way of saying, like, this is the kind of thing that, like, I've always wanted to put through, but never could because it's like a career killer kind of thing.
Little did he know.
Oh, well.
He would change the face of television.
The genesis of Lost is really interesting. And Lost only came about because the network executive at ABC just demanded, I want a show about an island. And it's like...
And it's just, because filming in Hawaii all of a sudden was this huge thing.
Yeah. So, like, he was like, I want a show on an island about survivors on an island. And that was, like, the mandate that was passed down from the network. And they gave it to J.J. Abrams. And it was like, okay, now what do we do with this idea? And the fact that they came up with Lost is in itself amazing. They just took that and they came up with Lost. And it was like, that's just mind-blowing when I think about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's good. It's what we need more of in TV, but it's one of those things that, like, you can't plan for. Can't plan for something like that.
Right.
You can't go like, we need a show like this, so we're gonna make our Lost-like show. That never works out, it's almost always like an accident.
Oh, it's been so painful to watch, like, all the wannabe Lost shows that came out, like, after Lost. It never worked out at all.
It's funny because I just listened to an interview with it was an IGN interview with Matt Stone and Trey Parker from South Park, and they were talking about the game and stuff. But one of the things they were talking about with the show is that everybody kind of knows that South Park they have this ridiculously fast schedule with their show where they finish an episode basically like 5 days. It airs like 5 days after they start.
Right.
So They get out those episodes so quick, and that allows them to be really topical. And they were talking kind of a little bit about that process and stuff. And one of the things they said is that, they said like once per season, they have like an episode that just goes so smoothly and easily that it just kind of flies along and it goes so perfectly. And he said, and that's like always the episode that everyone's like, meh. And then like the rest of them are like hell. Like they're struggling and they just never feel right about it. And then all the way up to the end, they just don't feel it's good or anything. And those are the ones that everyone loves.
Right.
So it shows you that's just something that kind of happens. Lost is one of those kind of shows that it's any kind of myriad of different events could have made that not work.
I remember like right after Lost ended, like every single network show that came out, like they kept coming out with these major shows that they all like seemed to have like be centered on like some big mystery. There's some
like the event, and
yeah, like the event.
and they were all named after the thing too, which is kind of like is what Lost didn't do.
Right. Which was, yeah, Lost wasn't called The
Lost
Island.
never put the premise first. That was like the whole thing, you know?
Right, exactly. Lost, I mean, for me, Lost was more about the characters than it ever was about the mysteries. The mysteries were just something for the characters to do, but it was definitely more of a character study because of how it went in depth with these characters, their past, what they were all about, how they were connected, you know, that was the core of Lost to me. That's what made Lost interesting to me.
Plus, the mysteries being vague and lost is like a big part of what made them so compelling.
Right, exactly.
Whereas, like, you know, with these shows, it's like the premise is all out in the pilot, you know?
Yeah.
And then it's like, okay, well, now where do you go? You know, like
Yeah,
what's exciting or interesting? How are you gonna
Right.
use this as a premise to like push characters apart or pull them together? You can't, because you just kind of shot your whole wad right in the first, you know,
Right,
episode.
Lost
I think Lost had an opening that not a lot of shows probably could get away with, which is it started with its characters. It was really, 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 really slow to introduce the conceptual elements. I think a lot of networks would be really impatient with that.
Right.
Yeah.
Lost.
Well, that's exactly the thing. Like that, Lost is a show that would have never been greenlit if it wasn't for the fact that, like, the guy was basically on his way out already.
Lost.
The guy that greenlit the show.
I think Lost had an advantage though, where they didn't have to show their hand right away. They didn't have to like put this big mystery in front of you, because Lost could start with the premise like, these people are trapped on an island, how do they get off? And then, it took that and used that as a jumping point to then introduce all these other elements. You know, gradually introduce them, like you said, and to make people wonder and go, you know, like the smoke monster from the first episode when he killed that pilot. You're like, what the hell was that? I don't know.
Well, yeah, and back then it wasn't even a smoke monster.
No.
We didn't even see smoke until like towards the very end of the first
We
season.
just heard it and everybody thought it was a dinosaur.
Yeah, everyone's
Yeah,
like,
you heard like a weird roaring and then like a mechanical clicking sound or something.
Yeah, like a mechanical clicking sound. Everybody thought it was a dinosaur, but you think, what's that? That came out of nowhere in that. Because you're watching this show about people trapped on an island, and then stuff starts happening. And it's kind of like, you know, and then you're interested. By that point, you're intrigued now. You're already, if you're watching it, you're already sold on the premise, but now you're even more intrigued because this is happening and this is happening. And that's how Lost like sucked people in. And then you're right with like things like the event or something. They don't have they don't have that luxury of drawing people in this, so they have to have like this big mystery right up front.
Well, here's the thing. The first episode of Lost ended, and what do you think?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, what?
What was that? What's this? What's that? The first episode of the event ends, and you're like, oh, so it's aliens.
Yeah.
It's like, that's it, you know? It's already done.
It's already done, yeah. Yeah, exactly.
I think the main thing we're talking about with sci-fi and our discussion of the Sci-Fi Channel is that it's exciting to see them kind of pushing back in this direction. And while, you know, nothing's in that BSG tier, you know, so far, it's still good, fun science fiction. Shows that take place in space, which is just great to have on TV again. And we got more coming up too. There's a cool looking show called The Magicians, has a really good trailer that's going to be kind of more on the fantasy side for sci-fi. And then we got, they're co-financing or co-producing Childhood End, which looks really good as well. Was based on the Arthur C. Clarke book. I don't know if you guys have read that. That was one I read when I was in high school.
Oh, yeah. I haven't read it, but I'm familiar with it.
Yeah, so, and that one's gonna be one to check out too. And that pretty much brings us to an end for this week. So, we'll talk to you guys next week. In the meantime, check out our site, TVEnthusiast.com. Check out our articles on the front page. You can see my article about Mr. Robot. You can see some of the recent news posts by Will. We'll have more content coming up through the week. So, that's it. Bye.
Bye.
If you would like to voice your opinion, send an email to theweeklyset@TVEnthusiast.com. TV Enthusiast is a part of the Enthusiast Media Network. Stay tuned to TV Enthusiast and the Weekly Set podcast for more coverage of all of